dias. Well, I'm back. Back in the country that's famous for coffee, Pablo Escobar, Miss Universe pageant winners, and I'm sure a few other things. The beauty of the country, the people. And so today, I'm going to tell you about why I actually decided to come back to Colombia. And it is December 22nd, 2020, so obviously we're still in this worldwide pandemic situation. Colombia is no different. So I'm going to tell you what I know so far about what's going on in Colombia. I'll do my best to give you an idea about whether you might want to travel here. A little bit noisy there, so I'm going to keep walking away. So the first thing I'm going to point out, I'm in La Candelaria, which is in El Centro, the heart of Bogota. And I'm in Simon Bolivar Plaza. And normally, this area here is decorated with nice Christmas lights. Usually there's a huge, I guess it's a fake kind of a tree that they have really nicely decorated right over here, and they have all the outlines of the buildings with lights as well. Usually pretty basic, but they still have lights, but this time there's really nothing of the sort. And then this is the main walkway for people where there's no cars allowed. Man, that thing's loud, so I'm going to try and get up here a little more. And they don't have any of the typical decorations all along that walkway either, so I'm kind of guessing that maybe in cities like Medellin and Cali, where they often have a beautiful light show, Las Alumbrados de Navidad, along the rivers. I'm kind of wondering if they're even having those this year, just to avoid having big crowds, because they do draw huge amounts of people. I've been to both in the past, and there's just tons and tons of people there. Really enjoyable, but yeah, I'm guessing they might have scrapped it this year. So anyway, so that's a little bit of a bummer. My plan is I'm heading to a smaller town called San Gil in the department of Santander tomorrow early. That's going to be about a 10-hour bus trip. And so I'm hoping that if I go to a smaller town that maybe it'll be a little bit more festive and just hopefully a little bit more of a relaxed atmosphere. As you'll plainly see as I walk around, lots of people wearing masks, and masks in Espanol is tapabocas. So yeah, lots of people wearing their masks. And Colombia, according to how you perceive the pandemic, was hit pretty hard in the scheme of things. So they're taking it really seriously. I'm gonna do my best to refrain from commenting on what I think about the whole pandemic situation, because I have put in a lot of research on that. But if you're curious, you can look at some of my other specific videos on that. But anyway, I don't want to bring up a bunch of controversy on my travel vlog. So anyhow, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go for a walk, and it's actually lunchtime, so I'm going to find something to eat. And as I do, you'll get a feel for how many people are wearing masks. And I'll tell you about my trip from Vancouver into Mexico City into Bogota last night, and one of the complications I had, which well, anyway, I'll tell you about it in a bit. So I'll pick back up in just a second. Alright, so in a bit I'm going to tell you about my trip and what you are going to need to know if you're flying into Mexico and Colombia. And one of those things I didn't know about, so that really held me up for a bit in the airport at immigration. Hola.
¿Cómo le va? Bien.
Bien, bien. So, first thing I want to mention is along this area here, there's usually a whole bunch of people doing busking. But when I went for a walk last night, there was hardly any busking going on. Alright, I'm back. Sorry, it's a little windy along this street, so you know wind can ruin the sound. So anyhow, it looks like all the stores are open, which is a really good thing, which is also what my friend from Colombia told me, that all the stores are open. I don't see a lot of tourists, which doesn't surprise me whatsoever. But anyway, here's the story for coming into Mexico and into Bogota. Fortunately, I was debating about whether to come to Mexico or Colombia, and I watched one travel vlogger, and he is in Mexico as a lot of them are, because it's one of the only places that's really open and isn't too strict or on lockdown. And anyway, he mentioned on his show that you need to fill out a form online before you can get into the country. And so fortunately I took note of that and found the form and filled that out, and so that all worked out. Now I'll also warn you that coming into Mexico, well, actually let me back up a little bit. When I was in the Vancouver airport, it was like the dead zone. It was like a zombie apocalypse had hit. There was only 3 flights leaving. Just pan over to the other side so you can see a little bit on the other side. Yeah, there's a flight to Puerto Vallarta, Ciudad de Mexico, Mexico City, and Hong Kong. And that was it. There's hardly anybody there. Really eerie. But then flying into Mexico's airport is actually quite busy. Quite a different story, which again makes sense because that's one of the only countries that's really open for business right now and no restrictions for entering. And so that's the other thing I want to mention about Colombia. One of the reasons I decided to come to Colombia is that they don't require a PCR test and there's no quarantine period, so that's what appealed to me quite a bit. Alright, so here's one busker up here, one of those statue guys. So at least there's some people out, but definitely not near the usual amount of people. And just to point out a few things of interest. Noisy as usual. Up there is Monserrate, and you can actually walk up to Monserrate if you're in good shape and are okay with walking up probably thousands of stairs. Or you can take the tram, which is much easier and it's very inexpensive. Okay, you'll see all along here there's going to be vendors, and the vendors seem to play the game with the police all day, where if they're, I don't know what the rules are, but if they're kind of in the center, it's like they have to move all the time. You never really see the policia coming. And another point of interest, maybe if you've been to Colombia or thought of coming to Colombia, you've heard of the fairly famous gold museum, and that's just right over there. But it's a beautiful day here. Temperature is probably in the low 20s, so that's part and parcel of why I want to get away for the winter Usually a little chilly and cold and rainy in Canada where I live, Vancouver Island. So anyway, I flew into Mexico City, and it was a bit of a gong show there because there was quite a few people needing to get through immigration. And so the lineup was really long, so coming down the escalator, right at the bottom of the escalator was where the line started, so everybody's kind of getting squished at the bottom of the escalator, which is kind of funny in a way, but anyway, it was a slow process. There's these girls that are selling cellular phone SIM cards. See it? You hear that loud music? To me, that's part and parcel of the energy, the vibrancy of Colombia. That's why I love coming here. It's just a different vibe in Colombia as opposed to Canada. Lots of noise. Okay, so continuing on with my story. In Mexico City, departure was a little bit late. I don't know why, but might have had something to do with spraying down disinfecting the plane, I'm guessing. In the airport, of course, in Vancouver and Mexico City, it's mandatory to wear a mask, tapaboca. So I bought a special mask before I left. Maybe I'll show you at some point. And it's kind of more like a mesh mask, which is far easier to breathe. And again, I'm not going to get into my thoughts on the whole pandemic, but let's just say I don't have any fear of getting the virus. If you do, well, okay, but I don't. So anyway, I want to breathe. Just waiting at a light here. But I had to wear my mask in the airport, on the plane. But just so that you know, you're allowed to take off the mask when you're eating your meal. They did have a meal. It was Mexico. Just a basic meal, just kind of like a ham croissant, some cookies, and juice. So anyway, yeah, my mask, I paid a little bit more than a typical mask. I'm glad I paid it so I can breathe better. More loud music. Okay, so all the flights went smoothly, but then a little bit of a tricky part came when I got to Bogota. I found it kind of odd that they weren't handing out immigration forms like they did on the plane and going to Mexico. And normally they do that coming into Bogota. Or music. But they didn't do that, so I specifically asked for one. And obviously I can't try to talk over the loud music. So as far as I can tell, the rules are you don't have to wear a mask outside. It's just recommended. And as far as inside restaurants, I was in a little place last night, and the restaurant that I was just in, and yeah, I didn't wear a mask inside, and lots of other people weren't when they came in. Get out of the sun a little bit. So I'm not sure what the rules are for eating in restaurants. Obviously you don't have to wear it when you're eating, but I'm guessing that it's recommended, maybe not mandatory in other stores as well. But I'll figure that out as I go along. So one little tip for traveling on the bus is that, well, I have to mention first, when I was in the restaurant, I was watching the TV, and it looks like the bus terminal, the Terminal de Transporte, is going to be a zoo, so that could be interesting. Hopefully, if I get there early enough, it won't be too bad. Anyway, my little tip is, I eat in the restaurants that are just small family-run restaurants, and I just paid for a lunch típico de Colombia, food that's typical of Colombia, about $3, and it was a nice filling lunch. Chicken and salad, rice, kind of a squash, I think it was squash, and natural juice. And so what I do is I get one to go, and I take it with me on the bus, because when you do the stops that the bus does on a long haul, then they stop at places that are usually at least double the price. So even though I can't warm this up on the bus, obviously, I save 2 or 3 times the money by doing that. So that's always a good thing if you're a traveler and you're trying to save money. It's a good tip. So as far as wearing a mask in taxis, I'm not sure if it's mandatory, but everywhere I can, I'm going to try and get away with wearing the mask below my nose so I can breathe. I'm sure it'll be mandatory to wear it in the Terminal de Transporte, the bus terminal, y el aeropuerto, the airport. And just for reference, the Simon Bolivar Plaza is just 1 block that way. And there's a bunch of artists selling their stuff along this road here on the way back to the hostel. Now, as far as anybody's gonna say to me, well, if you're not wearing a mask or wearing it below your nose, you don't obviously care about spreading the virus and killing grandma and all that fun stuff. Well, again, I've been studying health for 30 years. Before you make accusations, you might want to look up what's called the terrain theory, and that's terrain theory versus germ theory. And look up, for instance, what Dr. Tom Cowan, Dr. Andrew Kaufman, Dr. Stefan Lanka from Germany say about how viruses really work. And if you do, and you have an open mind, well, maybe you'll learn something. And just maybe, when you learn that something, you won't be as afraid of this whole thing. And you won't feel like you need to wear a mask either. Lots of construction going on in this area here. One of the old cathedrals. Construction all along this road here. What they're doing, but I guess just repaving it. This area here is the oldest area in Bogota. And so some of the streets are redoing all the cobblestone or whatever you want to call it. So it's more better shape. But anyhow, that's about all I can think of to tell you about coming to Colombia at this time, the end of 2020. If you're looking somewhere to go, it's a little warmer. I I say, why not? Temperature's perfect in Bogota right now. So I guess that's about it for now. I'll check back in. I don't know, maybe I'll do a hostel tour. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. Anyhow, hasta luego, and talk to you soon. I almost forgot to mention something. In addition to my little challenge entering into Colombia, just walking up the hill to the hostel. Once I got to the hostel, I ring the bell and no answer. Fortunately, the taxi driver is really nice, and he waited for me, and then he asked me if I had the phone number because nobody was answering. But then I felt a little bit more relief when I saw a couple of tourists go inside the hotel using their key. But I was wondering what was going on, why nobody was there to answer. So anyway, the taxi driver is really nice, and he used his phone to call the number, and he talked to the woman, and then I talked to her. And at first it sounded like, I was sure she said, we don't have your reservation. So I was thinking, what the heck's going on? And again, I was sure she said, no tiene tu reservación. So I was thinking, uh-oh, this is not good. I think I just passed where I was supposed to go. Anyway, it's very colorful in the background. So finally, gotta be a little dangerous skateboarding down these steep hills. And my hostel's actually back there, so I passed it, but I'm so engrossed in my own story here. So what happened was, I finally talked to her, and then she goes, "Sí, tenemos tu reservación," which means yes, we have your reservation. So it sounded like she said she didn't, then she does. And then she said she's at the bank and I'd have to wait for her to get back. So she said 15 minutes, which of course in Colombia means 30. Finally get in, and she said I did have a room. But then I got on my laptop and it said that my reservation had been canceled, and I knew I didn't cancel, so I was wondering again what the heck's going on. And so then I see another message saying that they had overbooked, and that was why they're canceling my reservation. And it said, they're trying to get a hold of me, but I was on an airplane and in bus terminals and everything airports, etc. for 24 hours. So I couldn't possibly get that message because I don't have a phone that was capable of getting a message. Anyhow, it all worked out in the end, but it was a bit of a trying time for getting into Colombia, and then thinking I didn't have a room for a little bit there. But again, it all worked out.